Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Multifamily Monday. My name is Jesse Greer and I'm the Vice President of Multifamily and Investments at Avison Young. And today I have a very special guest going into 2020. I have Troy Miller, the Director of Real Estate at UNR, and we are at the real estate offices for UNR right now. Troy, thank you for joining me.
Glad to be here and good morning everyone.
Absolutely.
Happy New Year.
Yes, and it's been a great New Year so far. So, Troy, talk to me a little bit about your position here at UNR. In fact, you've been here since almost 2006, correct?
Yeah, actually May of 2007 is when I started up here, and so it's been 13 years.
Amazing. So Troy's seen a lot of changes go on here at the University of Nevada Reno, and we'd love to talk a little bit more about that and then jump into really what I'd like to see the private housing side and student housing side of what's going on here at the campus.
Absolutely.
So Troy, talk to us about really what your position entails here at UNR as the Director of Real Estate.
Primarily, my job is for acquisition, disposition of university assets, any lease contracts, things like that. I work with the different groups on entitlement, growth, those type of items that deal with real estate.
Fantastic. So even though you're in the public sector, right, and working with UNR, you deal tremendously with the private sector.
Private, other government sectors, city, county, all across the board.
Talk to us a little bit about how someone might interact with you here at UNR's real estate offices. I mean, you talk about acquisition, disposition, and you even go through the whole process of entitlement as well. So when do you typically interact with other organizations or private industry?
Oh, in any fashions, whether it's here in the office, somebody calls, wants to talk about a project, all the way clear to city councils and board of regents and all of those events that, on the public side. So it's really a wide variety of activity through various divisions of real estate.
That's amazing. So you are quite involved with a tremendous amount here. And you can't really see it that well, but in the background, there's actually a fantastic map of UNR and really what it entails and the real estate behind it. And we'll put that up at a later point in time. But talk to us. It's not just here at UNR where you're handling real estate. It's outside of the UNR, what I call, campus area.
Sure, yeah, we're the land grant institution for Nevada, and so we have, you figure the UNR campus is one property, of course a large property, but we have working ranches, field stations, mines, we even have what
That's
I call
amazing.
Sagebrush havens, which are just land with sagebrush waiting for growth.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a lot around the state that we deal with, and we do all the contracting and transitioning for those too.
So let's kind of jump into really what I want to get into is the multifamily side of it, right? Which we'd call private sector and student housing as well, okay? So when you look at what's going on at UNR, there's a tremendous amount of growth. It's amazing to see all of the development that's going on right now. Is this new for you? I mean, is this something that you've not yet to see in the last 13 years, this amount of private sector development?
Yeah, private sector, public sector, the growth in the last 13 years. Well, let's say on the public sector, from 07 to about 2017, growth was substantial, and we're still growing substantially.
Yeah.
Private sector, really started to kick into gear about 13, 14, right in that area, and so just a lot of activity going on.
And I think what's really initiated that for UNR, for the most part, is the tremendous growth in the student base. Now, you mentioned minus the last 2.5 to 3 years, the growth at UNR over the preceding 10 years has been substantial.
Since 2007, that 10-year basis, I think I'm going off memory on the numbers, but we grew full-time equivalent students by 35%.
Amazing.
A 30 to 35% growth. We have built a substantial amount of buildings to be able to keep that
To accommodate
that,
right? Absolutely.
students. Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
You know, it's interesting too, when you look at the last 3 years, growth has somewhat, I think, plateaued, but that's coming off just a record-breaking 10-year period, right?
Right. Yeah. You had 10 years of just really, really high growth. Some of the largest in the nation.
Yeah.
And so it's been a little flat the last couple of years, and we'll continue to watch what happens. But we all know that Reno is a target of real substantial growth, and with our students, really there's a mixed basis. I think I'm going off 17 numbers. I haven't looked at the most recent, but a third of our students are from Washoe County in northern Nevada, that area. But a third of our students are from Clark County.
Huh.
Down there, and then a third are from other. So you think about that in the mix, 2/3 of our students, this was 17, I gotta look at the mix again, are from other places.
You know, it's amazing because when you think about the enrollment in UNR, you think mainly, you know, people from northern Nevada, but that's not the case. I mean, 2/3 of the population coming to this school is either from southern Nevada or out of state, which is fascinating. So when you look at this growth going into the market and the amount of development or potential for development, there's been a tremendous amount of new projects underway. And it's funny because when you think just 3 years ago, here we were, you know, saying, hey, we need more student housing, we need more private sector housing. Now here we are 3 years later saying, well, wait a minute, are we overbuilding for the area? And I think that's a lot of the concern that people that I talk to have is, you know, with where we're at in the market cycle, with land costs being as high as they are, with construction costs as being as high as they are, you know, really it's hard for a project to pencil. And you're finding that a lot of people are pulling back from certain projects, or maybe they pull back from a phase 2 after they complete a phase 1. Are you seeing any of that at all around here?
Well, you have a mixture of that. It's really getting the projects out of the ground.
Sure.
It's been a challenge on the land price and construction price time to be able to balance out what the cost per bed's going to be.
Yeah.
And so so you look at that mix, and the ones that have come out of the ground and been developed, they've filled up.
Sure.
So that is the fine balance. I heard this saying, it's not my original, the other day, that those that, let's look at this.
We got the crystal
those
ball.
those that live by the crystal ball eventually have to eat glass.
Yeah.
So I really, what the future will bring is very hard to predict.
Sure.
But you can look at what has been built, and they filled up so far, and our projections for the area and that side of things. It will be very interesting to see what comes and what mixes those are.
Absolutely.
The private developers that for the housing, a lot of them have always built the traditional bed bath, and you all share a kitchen. I don't know if there's going to be a lot more mix in the projects and different things, and so it's going to be interesting to see what comes. And there's several large student housing developers that own land that are projected to build big projects. So we'll just see what happens.
And it's an interesting dynamic too, because there's a complete separation between private sector development and student housing, right? We want to be clear of that. Mm-hmm. Now, what you're seeing is private sector trying to accommodate to student housing and to, you know, other individuals that aren't students as well. So you kind of have a seepage of student housing in the private sector as well. And what's interesting is when you look at this sub-market, which we consider kind of the North Urban sub-market, UNR sub-market, mm-hmm. right? We had a chance to plot every single 5-unit multifamily and above within a 3, 5, and 7 minute radius, right, mm-hmm. of where the university is at. And if you don't mind, let's transition to that real quick right here. And keep in mind that this is my map. This isn't UNR. So I want to be
really quick. Make sure so students don't get in trouble with student services.
That's right.
Private, student housing is really university housing.
Absolutely.
So these are private developments for private.
Correct. Right. And we just want to make sure that's understood. So what's interesting, when you look on the screen right here, what you find is, well, we have the 3, 5, and 7 mile radius, and then we have the purple bubbles, and based upon how large they are is how many units there are. And then we have the orange bubbles, which represent the new construction. Now, this is either approved, under construction, or pending. And you brought up a good question, really. What is pending? You know, and pending can basically mean a piece of property that might not be zoned for multifamily development, but it's either in contract or going through the process of rezoning, or trying to get some sort of, you know, going through the entitlement process, like you're talking about, right?
Sure.
So when you look at the map right here, there's a tremendous amount. We actually have it by the numbers. So the total projects that we have are 254. So every single one of these dots represent 254 properties, right? Which equate to about 9,633 units. So there's a lot of units that are within this particular 7-mile radius. What's interesting is if you look at the total under construction, there's 20 projects. But what's amazing about that is the size of them, the volume, the number of units. We have almost, if you to take under construction, pending, right, and approved, we have almost 4,522 units coming online that are within this radius. Now, keep in mind from what you're saying, right? It's not just UNR student housing, but it's private sector as well. Right. So that's one point of interest, right? So when you look at it, under construction, we have almost an 8% increase to the inventory, which is pretty amazing. Approved, we're about 9%, and then pending is 30%. So there's a lot of new units coming online if they actually come online. Would that make you nervous at all, or do you think we're in line with those numbers?
Well, you've got a mix because you got a pretty good radius there.
Sure.
So when you're staying a block or two around the university, those projects tend to be mostly students.
Absolutely.
Remember, on private side, they might not all be students.
And that is correct.
And so there's a lot of things. So you got to really look at the growth of the region, the cities, the corporations, the things where there's been lack of housing. But you know, with everything considered of Reno and the outlying areas and the Reno Sparks for the region and Drick and the new projects being announced and coming online, you almost think you have to have that much if that's going to come through. So chicken and egg thing, if you don't have the housing, they're not going to come. So you kind of look at your map and that side of things. Students might play into the occupying part of that, but that won't be
a small
the whole growth.
percentage.
Yeah,
correct.
Yeah.
And you know, politics aside, what you see happening across the border, you're seeing a lot of influx of individuals coming into Nevada as well. So I mean, there's a significant amount of population that's still coming to this area, despite the prices, despite the affordability and everything that comes with it.
Right. And affordability is a big question because, around the university, we've all learned the land prices are pretty high. Yeah. And coupled that with high construction prices, you just have to be really creative in and around and you start to spread out.
And to your point, especially as it's making its way downtown, it should be pretty exciting to see the change in downtown as well and how they're partnering up basically with UNR and we're expanding down to that area. That's fascinating.
Oh, and some of the things that are going on in downtown. The new downtown management district has been great. Clean, safe, and walking through that area, and there's obviously a lot of room for growth in downtown now with everything, and so it's going to be, the next 10 years will be really interesting.
It's going to be exciting. So Troy, if someone wanted to get a hold of the real estate department, how do they go about doing that?
And call me direct. Direct line is 784-6546, 784-6546, area code 775. My door's always open.
Fantastic. Well, I appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
It's my pleasure.
Have a great day.
Happy New Year.
You too.